Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Rose Show. Today we have Tyler here with us. And, I've had a lot of people ask me about epilepsy due to the fact that Tyler is an epileptic. So they've come to me and they've asked me, what have you done? What have you tried? This, that, and the other. So I thought it would be a great idea to have Tyler come on and do a podcast on epilepsy and his journey. I'm also working on a book, Epilepsy Through the Eyes of a Mother. I'm hoping to have it published by April. We'll go with April of next year. That goes over epilepsy as seen through my eyes.
Our journey.
Yep, our journey, basically. So anyway, Ty, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your experiences. And your journey through this. It's been a tough road
For all parties.
for all parties, but we haven't lived it like you have. So when did you experience your first seizure, and what, if anything, do you recall about it?
Shit. The first one, I want to say some things I'm concrete on, some things not so much. I want to say I was 23, getting ready to turn 24. I was getting in shape. It was the first time in my life I started running. I started,
Mhm.
doing cardio, running a few miles each day. And I ran to your house. It was about a 2.5 mile run from my house to your house. And I just remember going into the back into your like your office, your computer
Mhm.
room, whatever.
Mhm.
And I think I was sitting on your weight bench.
You were.
And I remember us talking, and that's all I fucking remember. When I woke up, I don't even remember when I woke up. I don't know if I was in the ambulance or I think it was at the hospital when I came up when I woke up. And it was the same as every other time. Like you wake up, everybody's eyebrows are up, everybody's eyes are wide open. And it's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And it's like, what the fuck do you mean? I
Mhm.
feel like a little tired, but I'm good. Shoulder
And
hurts.
and so that experience for me was something totally different. So Tyler's recollection is correct. He came over. We were in my office where I had a little weight bench. I
2013.
2013. In my office where I had a little workout bench and I would lift, dumbbells, nothing major. And he was straddling the workout bench. And we were just talking. I was in my office chair. He was sitting there on the workout bench. And the next thing I know, Tyler just fell over and off. And he let out a moan that just sounded like death. No other way to describe it. I later on found out that moan is caused because when an epileptic is having a seizure, it's forcing the air out past their vocal cords so aggressively that it makes that noise. It's a moan, almost like a cry. Anyway, he fell off, and at first I thought he was joking. We have always been a family that cuts up. So,
Inappropriate
and
humor,
yes,
scare you, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Anything to get a rise. And then like,
yes.
oh, stop tripping.
And so initially I thought he was messing with me until his hands curled in. And when his hands curled in, his legs stretched out. And when his legs stretched out, he put a hole through my closet door. And that's when I realized that this was not a joke. So, of course, as a mother,
I didn't even remember that. I put a hole in your door. I know he was mad about that, boy.
mm-mm.
Tighten the fuck up. This is the road show.
As a mother, I just didn't know what to do for my kid. He was foaming at the mouth. He was drawing in, breathing heavy. He was sweating profusely. So of course I got on the phone to 911, and I don't even know how 911 dispatchers deal with people like me, because I was hysterical. My son and I explained to them what was going on. They sent an ambulance out. Um, of course, neither one of us knew what was really
Because this was
happening.
out the blue. I never had any. I know, no high
Mm-mm.
blood pressure. I never had any underlying
Always
health.
healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other than like as a baby.
Mm-hmm. The ambulance came, they put him in the ambulance, they ended up taking him to the hospital. And that was my experience with the first, and it was a full-on grandma seizure. It was just absolutely horrible. If you've ever experienced one, you can relate. It's just absolutely horrible.
And I
So
always say, like, and I've said it to you before. I mean, it was, it was what it was, but I felt like y'all had it worse because I would just go out and then come back too. I never actually saw the shit. You know what I'm saying? So I never, I wake up and my body hurt, but I never saw it. I never had to do any like the crisis management, so to speak. I guess for lack of a
right,
better term.
right. You learn with an epileptic that you have to, they will tell you, get them on their side because they foam at the mouth and you don't want them to choke. And then you have to time it because if it's, you can't call the ambulance if I called the ambulance every single time Tyler had a seizure, we would be broke. So what they tell you is that you have to time it. If it's over a certain number of minutes, I think it's 4 minutes. Was it 5? I
So
thought it
I
was
believe it was
4.
4 or 5, and
Then you need to panic.
because
And
it's risk of brain damage at that point.
right. And that is like seizing. Now, once he's done seizing, he lays there and it's almost like, and I grew up around people that use drugs. So when I would look at him, he would look like someone coming off of a binge. I don't even know how else to explain it except that, everything was in slow motion. He didn't want you touching him. So he would do this, he would almost like he was tripping on acid because you would try to move things that weren't there. It was just strange.
Indeed.
It was strange.
The fuck if it wasn't.
So after that first seizure, do you feel like, because we've had conversations, leading up to that first major seizure, there were times where you would call me and you would be like, Mom, I'm in the bathroom at, what was it, Wendy's, Popeyes?
No, it was Taco Bell, but I was, cause shit. I mean, I was also like, all right. So since we're gonna go there, I'm gonna go there
Mm-hmm.
because you're lucky I love you.
I know.
So I was on probation from like what, like 16 until,
A long time.
yeah, I mean, it had to be until 22, 23 because I was, uh, instead of smoking weed, because I constantly have problems like trying to duck and dodge even when we moved back down to the shore, I still had to take, your drug tests weekly for Virginia. So they sold that K2, like that spice at the gas stations down here. And I'm thinking, okay, I didn't do my homework. So I would start smoking that stuff. And on a couple occasions, it was similar. I mean, I didn't seize, but I would break out in these crazy body sweats where like you could wring my t-shirt out like it just like, you washed it without drying it. And I had passed out a couple times, or I would just go blank. Like I could hear, I was conscious, but I just like I couldn't speak and I couldn't see, and I would sweat. And that happened to different degrees on 3 occasions before. But I don't know if that was tied to it or not. I don't know if that was tied to it or if that was just me being a dumbass. Like, hey, instead of finding
And,
something to supplant the marijuana, just stop smoking.
and the reason that the confusion comes in is because they tell you that they're called absent seizures. So an absent seizure is a seizure where you lose 30 up to 30 seconds, sometimes more, where you do
The
you want to
way,
explain it?
well, the way they described it at Johns Hopkins is it's large in the brain, not as hard on the body though. And essentially what happens is
You're there, but you're not there.
yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It felt the same as if I was getting ready to have a seizure, except so you have your aura is what they call it. And that's that couple seconds right before. And for me, I would get a deja vu. And I'm like, oh shit, I've been here before. And I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like somebody was laying a blanket over you. Like I
But
could
how long did
feel
it
it.
take before you were self-aware enough to know that?
I mean, I guess not it's a couple of years until we went to Hopkins and they were able to say, like, yeah, this
You
is
need to
what that
recognize
is.
the signs, the triggers.
But
That's what
even
they were.
still, like, like even still, you only have a second or two. You know what I mean? Once that feeling hits, you're done.
Okay, once that feeling hits, you're done for, you're going to have an absent seizure or you're going
You
to
don't
have a
know.
grandma
You
seizure.
don't know. They both feel the same right before. All you could do is like you tense up either way. You know, the absences, a lot of times you'll go blank and I would just be like, the thought would be in my head, man, fuck, am I going to go out? Am I going to go out? Am I going to go out? Like, that's all I could think. I wouldn't be able to talk. I might be able to say like one word over and over and over and over and over,
Right.
but I can't speak. I can't verbalize like what's going through my head. But they felt the same. I would get that strong deja vu, the goosebumps would take over my body. And like I said, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like a feeling that would come on my back, my shoulders, over the back of my head. And it was just intense. You know, I mean, you couldn't help but to like tense up. You couldn't help but to tense up. And then you were either out or even if I didn't go out, I would have to like once it wore off, you know, at the time I was still smoking cigarettes. I was smoking a cigarette and I had to go to bed. You'd
Right.
be so tired.
They liken the absent seizure to, if you were to see a person that was having one, it would look like they were spacing out. Tyler has said before that it's like he's there and he's aware, he just can't move or speak. So he knows what's going on around him. He just can't react to any of it. You've said that before.
You're frozen. It's
Yeah.
like you're frozen in time. Like everything is still going except you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just you're frozen in time. I don't know how else to put it.
So how long was it before? Okay, so medications. What do you take that works? How many different combinations did they try with you? I mean, what does that look like for you, medication wise?
So I mean, I still take my. Granted, it's been a long time since I had them. You know, we're skipping like a long period of time here. But
Because I want to go into initially, because initially you took medications and
well, initially
combinations and they didn't work.
well, they put me on the Keppra off the muscle,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably have to take ownership on some of that because it was new. It was something I didn't realize like how strict the shit was. Was
Because
like,
you grew up
hey,
in a household where we didn't, if you could go without medicating it, we would have preferred you go without
well, I
medicating.
was just never sick to have to medicate anything.
Right.
You know, so that's I mean, but you know, they put me on the Keppra and it's like, hey, you know, you got to take these 6 pills in the morning at the same time every day and 6 more in the evening at the same time every day. And I mean, I really wasn't responsible with it as responsible as, I mean, I might take it every day, but not at the same time every single day. And some days I just might not take it.
Because you would forget.
Yeah, forget or, you know, I mean, you know, just not leave it at the house before you go to work, whatever. It was just new, you know what I mean? It was just new. So, you know, we tried that. It didn't work. And then they tried probably 3 or 4 different medications, which they
And what did
advised
they tell? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
which they advised against because they said after 3, they said the success rate drops below 5% of the
After 3
medication.
different medications.
Yeah. The success rate is under 5% of them working. And they don't like to go back to like older medicines and a lot of the shit was like benzos, you know, like the Ativan.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that shit because you take it and you can't function. You know, at least I couldn't function. I'm not a pill popper. I've never been a pill popper
Mm-hmm.
like that. So I'd be, you know, you got 30 minutes and you better fucking be somewhere stationary because you got to go to bed. Like you're not gonna be able to fight to sleep. You know, what I mean, my eyes never been so heavy. You know, they called it rescue medicine. You know, only take this if you're having one. But it's like, how the fuck do you take it? Like if you're having one, I got a 2 second window when I get that feeling. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't know. And
So,
they recommended surgery off the muscle. As soon as it was after the like first couple seizures.
mm-hmm.
We went to a doctor here locally in
Mm-hmm.
Salisbury.
A neurologist.
And
Yeah.
she was like, off the rip, she was like, oh, you know, we need to do a craniotomy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, And I'm like, okay,
What did that
what is,
entail?
I'm like, what does that entail? And she's like, oh, well, we're going to cut you from here to here. We're going to peel it forward. We're going to remove a portion of the scalp or of the skull. We're going to go in. We're going to cut the tumor out of your brain, and then any damaged tissue or any of the portions of the brain that has like it was stained with blood. We will put the skull back in. We'll put some plates in there to some titanium, I believe it was, and then we'll put the
Put you
fucking
back
fold you
together.
back up and sew you underneath and staple you up and I'm like, okay, well,
So at that point, what did she tell you was causing the seizures? Because not everyone has epilepsy for the same reason. What causes your epilepsy, or what caused?
I had what was called a cavernous angioma, and what that is it's like a deformation, really. It's something you're born with. So some people are born with epilepsy and they grow out of it. Some people aren't born with it and they grow into it. What mine is, it's a cluster of blood vessels, or what mine was a cluster of blood vessels that you're born with, but they're not attached to anything. So over time, so the blood is just pumping and it's just flowing into your skull. And the way that Johns Hopkins described it was, your skull, the human skull is there's only enough room in it for exactly what's in it. Anything else, so like blood flowing
or even stained from blood.
It creates pressure, and it's like pressing reset on the Nintendo, and you get the static screen, and then it comes back on, and boom, you playing Mario again. So these blood vessels, they never attach to anything, so they're just kind of pumping blood slowly, just loose in your brain. But in my case, like literally into the brain, like staining it, because the tumor was like an acorn. And over time, these blood vessels, they kind of grow together into that that little mass or whatever, and it slowly pumps blood, but that mass is also creating pressure, and boom, your body presses reset, reset, reset. It just took 23 years, because it's 2013. Just took 23 years for my body to start pressing reset.
So back to the neurologist, she recommended a craniotomy. And what was your initial reaction to that?
Fuck that. And then plus I asked her, I'm like, okay, so if I didn't tell her this, but I'm like, okay, if I did go, I did tell her this part. If I did go through with it, how many of these have you done? And she said that this would either be her second or third. And I'm like, yeah, no, the fuck it won't. I need you guys send me somewhere else, baby girl. I need a number 2 opinion, please. We're not doing that. And I don't trust these Salisbury quacks anyway, with all due respect to anybody out here doing their thing. But respect to her, because looking back, she called it off the rip. You know what I mean? She knew exactly what I needed, but
because that's what fixed it in the end. But
she sent me to University of Maryland.
Yes. And so let's go through that. So real quick, for Tyler, it was about a comfort level with his doctor and knowledge. So when we went to the University of Maryland, yes,
reputable, however you say it.
So let's talk about University of Maryland and that.
I would never recommend that department to anybody.
Why is that?
Because they were trash. So I can't remember all the ins and outs, but the one thing I do remember is I had an appointment up there, and I spoke to the woman that was at the front desk, and I had a whole bunch of paperwork and shit, and she was like, no. She was like, I got your paperwork, all the stuff you got. We went through everything. She's like, man, everything you just named, I got it right here. Don't even worry about it. So I'm like, all right, cool. And it's an afternoon appointment. It's got to be like 3 o'clock. It's the last appointment of the day. That's what I know. And we get up there, and the nurse and the doctor come out, and they're like, okay, so where's your paperwork? I'm like, I didn't bring it. Old girl said she had it. Very nice woman at the front desk too, by the way.
Remember, it's a 3-hour ride.
Yeah, and they're like, no. We don't have it. You don't have it. We can't do this. And I'm like, well, hold on. And the woman at the front desk was even saying, no. It was all right here. I just had it right in front of me. And while she's saying that, the doctor already had his jacket on and was leaving the practice, was walking out of the fucking hospital just like that. And his nurse even looked uncomfortable. His nurse was sitting there like with big eyes, like she didn't really want to say anything. But I think he just didn't want to. It was the end of the day, and he had somewhere more important to be. And the nurse, I mean, the woman that was working the front desk who said she had the paperwork was so adamant that the paperwork was just, I mean, 5 minutes ago, it was just right there. And she doesn't know where in the hell it could have went. So I think that they, snatched it off her desk. We don't want to do this for the day. And I leave that fucking hospital or that
And had
hospital
one on the way home.
on 695 on the side of the
695.
fucking highway.
And again, and I said it earlier when he's seizing. So here I am on 695. If you've ever been there, you know how busy it is. I'm trying to get over to the side of the road. So I'm going across multiple lanes. He's seizing. I know that I need to get my seat back because if I don't get my seat back, the force of him straightening out is going to break my seat. So I'm trying to handle all this. I'm on the phone with his father because at this point I'm panicked and I needed someone else there with me. And I always cry. I'm sorry.
You gotta tighten up.
I know. I apologize. Anyway, I get his father on the phone. And he's, talking me through all this. Not that I don't know what to do. I just needed someone else there with me. Tyler is trying to get, when he finally starts coming back around, he's trying to get the seatbelt off. He's trying to get
doing anything. When I come out of them, I'll do whatever.
He's trying to get out of his
Use
clothes
the bathroom
because
in
he's
front of
100
y'all,
degrees.
stripped down naked, and I'm not conscious. Like I don't notice. Like,
He has no idea. So
that's what people tell me.
He's trying to get out of the car. I'm trying to stop my son, who's what, 6'2", I don't even 180 pounds, from trying to get out of my vehicle because I'm worried he's going to run into traffic. It's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. Epilepsy is a lot. It's a lot. Anyway, that was the University of Maryland.
So off the muscle, like I'm never going back. Because I believe that the woman at the front desk, we've had podcasts where we talk about people energy being tangible.
Yes.
You could tell she was a good woman. She liked her job. I believed her. Whereas the nurse, her face said it all. Like she wasn't comfortable saying that she didn't have the paperwork. The doctor was adamant that, if you don't have it, we can't do this. And I mean, 10 seconds, he was putting his jacket on. He was out the door. He did not want that paperwork to be there.
So where did you eventually land, doctor-wise?
We landed at Johns Hopkins neurological department.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Dr. Ben Carson with Dr. June Kong.
And Dr. Anderson.
He was the surgeon.
Yes, amazing. They are amazing people.
Yeah, I would recommend Hopkins. If you got neurological problems, man, if they can make me feel comfortable,
the extra mile.
They can make y'all feel comfortable for real. So I go there. They often muscle the same thing. They recommend the craniotomy. But it's just, I don't know, just the description. It's like, man, maybe less is more, don't, I mean, I understand they have to disclose all that, but it's like, shit, I'm good. So they had another procedure that they could do that they hadn't done on a lesion of that size. But it's like a machine operated. They lay you on the table at an angle with your head down here.
Laser ablation, isn't that what that was called?
Stereotactic thermal ablation.
That's it. Gosh, I can't believe you remember that.
And so they put you on the table like this. Your head is here at an angle. They put one of those, like I just got in a car accident. I'm paralyzed braces. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not poking fun at anybody.
No.
But those big old braces on your head. The first one, there was just a cut right here. The brace like holds the skin out of place, and they literally, it's like a game, and they take a drill and they drill into it, drill a hole in there, and then they run a laser in that hole, and they try to ablate the tumor.
Using it's guided with an MRI.
Yeah. And they told me, like, the success rate, we haven't done one on this size before, so we're gonna have to hit it from the front and the back. The chances of success are not quite as high. I think they said like 30-40% chance of seizure free or less seizures. And it's less invasive. That's all I heard. Less invasive. So
right.
And
I
still fought against it for a few years. I mean, they started in 2013. I didn't go through with the first one, until November of 2017. Because it just got to a point where I was like, man, I'm gonna end up killing somebody, or I'm gonna
It,
kill
it was he
myself.
was going to kill himself. Like, so he's had seizures where he's literally pulled the bathroom sink, the vanity off the wall. He's had
It was getting
seizures.
to a point I would never be able to live by myself.
Mm-mm,
Like I was,
mm-mm.
it was sometimes like where I would wake up in the at my house. One time in particular, I woke up and I'm saying I'm butt ass naked on my bed. My bed is kind of cocked at an angle. I got this headache that's just crazy. And the lights are on in the shot in the bathroom. The shower's running, like steam is pouring out of the bathroom. And I'm just, waking up like, man, what the fuck is going on? Why does my head hurt like this? And I'm thinking that my roommate is home, and I'm like, why would I be laying naked with the door open if he was here? And it took me again. I'm groggy when I come out of these things, and it took me a minute, and then I realized, like, damn, my head's not sore. Like this whole side of my face was swollen, all the way from here, all the way down. And I remembered I had been in the shower, and I just remember thinking, like, damn, it's getting hot in here. I need to get out. And so I know now that I had a seizure at some point. Maybe I realized it and was like, hey, I got to get into the bed, but I never turned the shower off. I don't know how long I was laid out there or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I busted the side of my head all on something. And it was, I mean, I'm telling you, this whole side here, everything was swollen. I'm like, God damn. But yeah, it was to the point where it's like, I'm never going to live a normal life. Um, I had gotten into a couple of car accidents as a result of these things. And shit, I went a minute without driving. Um,
And I'm
I
going to
was,
say, I'm going to speak to this because I feel strongly about it. There are, and I'm not saying all police officers, because there was a female police officer that went to bat for you. But I will say, and it's probably because they deal with drug addicts. And again, as I said earlier, he looks very much like one when he's coming out of a seizure. He looks like he's on something. But there have been times where I've had ambulance people come in here that want to manhandle him when he's coming out of one. Very aggressive. He doesn't want to be touched. So, but one young guy in particular, yeah, he just manhandled him. Same thing with police officers. They just don't. When you say, "Hey, he's epileptic," they don't want to hear that.
well, let's like do the full story then. You know what I'm saying? So I there was one time in particular, like I had gotten off of work, and this was the final straw, and I didn't drive for a long time after this. I was going through the car park and on the boulevard, if y'all know what I'm talking about, headed towards I was going to Marshalls. I just got off work, going to Marshalls. Remember getting to the end of the car park, coming up on the overpass there, and I got that deja vu, like, oh shit. And I don't know. So I came to however long after that, and I'm underneath the overpass. It's like that little concrete median. And my car is like the driver's side tires are on it. The airbags on the passenger side are all out. The front of the hood is smashed, like just caved in. And but the car's still on, it's still in drive. It's like smoking inside. And I'm like, man, what the fuck is going on? Cars are still zipping on by, you know what I mean? So I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like, again, I'm out of it. I don't know. And I'm just, so
Focused on Marshalls.
I look around and I don't see, I'm like, I don't see any other cars other than the ones passing me. Again, my car's still in drive, it's just not driving. So I hit the gas and it revs up, but it doesn't go. So I'm in my head, I'm like, man, what the fuck happened to my car? So I go to get out, I open the driver door, I put it in park, open the driver door, and I go to step out, and my leg, it's just no strength in my leg. It just kind of buckled. I'm like, oh shit, because it's just so much work on your legs. Your body will be sore, like
He would be
extremely
sore for
sore.
days.
Like I still have a torn labrum from that shit. But anyway, I go to get out, I can't get out. So I sat back down and I'm like, well, shit. I was headed to Marshalls. Like, I got to get to Marshalls. That's the only thought in my head. It was the last thing I thought about. It was the only thing I thought about when I came to. So I start driving. I put it in drive and the motherfucker starts rolling. So I'm like, all right, I look around. I get out and there's so like everything, it's a 4-lane section. I could see, I swear, no exaggeration, I could see like 10 lanes. Each car, I could see like 4 cars, but not just like this. They're, also like in front of each other. My depth perception was crazy. And I'm like, damn, what the fuck is going on? Like, I know I haven't had anything to drink, nothing, but I just know I got to get to Marshall's. That's where I'm headed. So I'm driving. I passed was that the Tiger Mart there? And I'm trying to get over, and I'm having a hard time staying in my lane. I remember that. And I come up on another car, and I know I tapped her, but in my head, I'm like, man, I don't know. So I see her get behind me. I'm like, yeah, I had to hit her, but I'm going to Marshall's. I got to get to Marshall's. So I finally get down to the Marshall's parking lot, pull in the very back spot, put it in park. And when I get out of these seizures, especially the big ones, I gotta use the bathroom. I gotta pee every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I get out of the car, Shorty pulls in behind me, and I don't want to say I'm clear, but I'm more aware of what's going on or what I hit her. So I give her my keys and I'm like, listen, I'm not running. I gotta piss. And for whatever reason, I walked into like Marshall's, Ross, and whatever the other one is before, and I used the bathroom. When I get out, it's like 4 cops out there by the car. So I come back, and that's the male cop who.
But did
like,
you call your sister at some point during all this? Because I remember Taylor was there.
If so, I don't remember.
Taylor was there.
No, she wasn't there with the police.
Yeah, she was, because she said that she remembers the male police officer being very, not very nice.
So just something else I don't recall.
Mm-hmm.
So but I remember him like, asking me, are you on drugs? You know what I mean? You sure you're not doing drugs?
And it was the first thing, whenever he went to the emergency room,
like,
the first thing they would do is drug test him.
And I'm like, bro, just, I take a breathalyzer, like what, if you need blood, like whatever you need, bro, I got you. So what had happened when I woke up the first time underneath the overpass, apparently there was a 18-year-old boy who was at the red light there. And the reason I woke up with my front end smashed is because I just plowed into his back while he was stopped. Luckily, he wasn't hurt or anything like that, just shaken up. And I swear to God, I did not see that car when I came to. But there's a female officer who responded to that call when the police realized that the same car was that rear-ended this woman. The female cop, younger female officer, I wish I got her name. She was assigned the second accident as well, is considered a continuation. So while these 4 police are like grilling me, you know what I'm saying, about whatever, she comes up and I'm trying to tell them like, listen, man, this is the situation. You know what I mean? This is what I'm dealing with. And it was like a godsend because she was like, well, her niece was epileptic. She had a very young niece who was epileptic. So she kind of pulled me to the side and talked to me. And, they took me to jail for a little while. I was only in there for a few hours before they let me out. And yeah, so after that, I just, it was like, like I said, it wasn't even about me at that point. It's like, man, I don't want to, what if it's a minivan or something? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to kill yourself. It's another thing to kill other people. So, yeah, I didn't drive for a minute. I mean, I was walking to work, or Stefan would come get me, or Pat would come get me. For a long time. And then I had the first surgery. That shit worked for, I think it was a year and a day.
It was a year and a day, exactly. Until you had
and then they came back and I dealt with those. I dealt with that for a little minute too.
So let me ask you this. So I work with a couple who have adopted children, and one of them was epileptic, and he put him on the Atkins diet and swears by it, a strict Atkins diet. And he said it stopped the seizures. There are people that will smoke pot and say that helps with the seizures. Did you try any of those things?
Been smoking weed since I was 13 years old, and that shit did not help me. And it's a modified Atkins. There's also like a modified ketogenic diet for epilepsy that Hopkins talked about, but it is extremely strict, like super rigorous.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't stick to it to a T, you run the risk of making it worse. And I know me, you know what I mean? I eat well, I eat my fruits, I eat my veggies, I eat my chicken, my turkey, all that. I exercise. But one thing about me, if it's a strawberry cheesecake on the menu, I'm gonna have me a little piece.
So have you ever tried to wean yourself off of Keppra? Because Keppra is the only medication that's worked to date, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I try. I mean, after the second surgery, when I finally had the craniotomy, um, I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm fixed. And I went like 2 weeks just cold turkey. I didn't take it. And I was living with, you know, a couple of friends up there in the DC area. And I remember waking up one morning, it's like 4 or 5, like I woke up and I just remember having again, just an insane headache. Like it felt like my head was gonna pop. And everything was all dark. I remember just like pitch black, which is how I sleep. And I sent my boss a message and I'm like, yo, there's no way I can make it in today, bro. I apologize, but this shit is next level. Apparently that same day, like I woke up, they said I was up and talking to them. It's a husband and wife. They said I was talking to them, but not really making sense. And then I kept going from like the basement to the third floor, kind of like mumbling and talking to myself.
Which is usually a clue that Tyler's getting ready to have one or he has had one. Normally it's that he's getting ready to have one.
So, and then eventually they said I walked out back with B, and he said I just went into one and went into another and another and another and just wouldn't stop. So shoot, I don't remember anything other than sending that text message. I came to, it was like 6, 7 o'clock, and I was in the hospital, and I'm like, okay, so I need the medicine. And if I take it, I take it every day.
If you could go back and start with the craniotomy again, would you have done that? Because you're how many years seizure free since that surgery?
Almost 4.
And the MRI guided surgery only gave you a year. So the craniotomy has really been it's been a big deal.
Well, you remember Mr. Anderson, Dr. Anderson, he said, he was like,
Amazing surgeon, by the way.
yeah, Dr. Stanley Anderson, William Stanley Anderson. But he said that the first surgery kind of made the second one easier because what the laser did was essentially it crystallized the tumor. So he said he was able to go in, take it out. When he put it in the bowl, it was like tink, tink, and he said he was able to get all of the damaged brain tissue and brain matter out. I don't know. Going back, would I do it different? Probably not. I mean, if I knew then what I know now, maybe. But when they started talking, like they started talking about the risks. That's what really messed me up. It wasn't even so much like how invasive it was. I mean, it played a part, but it was like, you got to understand it's a chance that you don't get off the table. You might die. You got to understand that it's really close to the optic nerve, so it's a chance you lose sight.
There were a lot of risks.
You could lose your motor skills.
Your memory was the biggest thing for you.
That was my memory. There's a chance that you wake up and you don't recognize anybody. You know what I'm saying? And it's like shit. I mean,
but none of that
at that
happened.
point in time, it's like if I'm gonna wake up and not remember anybody, like my thought process was like, shit, I'd rather be gone. Selfish thinking for sure, but I mean that's where I was. I'm like, man, there's a chance I'm gonna wake up and I'm not gonna recognize my mom, my sister, my father. I'd rather shit. I'd rather check out. I'd rather punch the clock. But
so how many staples did that give you? How many? I mean, it went from ear to ear, didn't it?
50.
I thought it was
58. I think it was.
Yeah, you looked very Frankensteinish afterwards.
But the second one it wasn't as bad as the first. I mean, the first one was crazy. I didn't know if I would ever. I felt so slow, like I could think, but I couldn't get.
Your recovery from the second one was much faster, which was a shock to me because it was
more involved. But I think, like I said, and I'm just guessing, but I think that drill, like, because you can look up the videos of stereotactic thermal ablation. That shit sounds terrible. Like when that drill is going, and I almost wonder if like the vibration of the drill gave me like baby shake syndrome. Cause you remember, I mean, I couldn't talk. I mean, I was talking, but
you struggled. It was memory. You were slow.
I couldn't find my words.
Right.
I couldn't. I could
It took
think
you
of a
longer to
word, but I
recover
couldn't
for
get it
sure.
out. You know, it was like
So let me
shit.
ask you this. How has this affected your friendship and your romantic relationships?
It didn't affect any romantic relationships. Um,
Other than the fact that they've come to me and said, what do I need to do?
yeah,
What's the process? But you don't, it's not affected.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I was in a relationship like when it was at its peak, but shit, man, it was such a hectic time in life for so many fucking reasons. There was so much going on back then. It was crazy. But as far as like how it affects my friendships, I don't know that it affected friendships so much as maybe this isn't effect, but it made you appreciate things more. Cause like, yo, Stefan held it down.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm
And I'll
saying?
tell
Like,
you this with that for my part, and I'm
mhm.
interrupting and I
Yeah, yeah.
apologize, but it made your friends, I communicated with your, like Stefan.
Yo, it showed you who was
Yeah,
like, you know what I'm
yes.
saying? Like,
Stefan would call me and go, how's he doing? I mean,
it showed you motherfuckers who really cared.
yeah,
Like, you know, some people
yeah,
you can have a great time with, but when the fun time is over, it's like, yo, I'll see you when it's time to have fun again. Other motherfuckers are there, like, you know, when you have health problems, like they, you know, in the mud, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, kneeling down beside you while you fucking, you know, foaming up white shit and whatnot.
yeah, yeah.
You know, so you know, that was one of the many reasons, like the love, I had so much love for him because it's like, yo, I knew like that was, you know what I'm saying? That's, you know, people ask me, I'm like, yeah, that's my brother. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect to Patrick
Oh yeah,
or
no.
Don
When
or
you
nothing like
called me
that,
and
but that's my brother, yo,
when you
for
called
real.
me and said he had been shot, no, I mean your other friends I would have not been there for, but you were like, Mom, you need to go to the hospital, and I was on my way. You know what I mean? Because Stefan and I guess sort of bonded through you, if that
Yeah,
even makes sense.
yeah, that was my guy.
Um, so we got sidetracked a little bit. So what advice would you give to a parent? Because I have parents that have young children with epilepsy. What advice would you give them as far as,
Man,
yeah, I mean, it's a game changer, man. It's a whole
it's
freaking life
hard. I don't know.
game changer.
Like, you just got to be willing to. I
I
mean,
mean, as a parent,
you would have to be the one to give the advice. Because I mean,
as a parent, I will tell you this. My child is 33 and I worry about him every day. If I don't hear from him, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did he have,
but I tell
he
y'all,
lives on his own. So
I feel better now. I feel like I'm in the best years of my life. Physically, I'm in the like other than right when the seizure started, because you know your boy was getting a little cut up. But I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, physically, mentally, professionally, personally. I feel like I'm in the best, and I feel healthier than I've ever felt before. I feel like I think clearer than I've, and I'm not, I mean, you know, obviously so much room for growth, but I feel great. It's been
but
years and years and years. I'm doing things now that I never thought I'd be able to do again.
so I do want to say this for and the reason I'm gonna say journal is because Tyler has, what is your dosage of Keppra? What's the recommended dosage and what is your dosage of Keppra?
The recommended is 3,000. My dose is 3,000.
I thought you were on more than that at one point.
Oh, well, so that was shoot. So we backtracked like Hopkins when we were first going through the medicines and they had tried multiple and I was still having problems. They just reverted back to the Keppra because it was, you know, it worked the best. And initially they had said that 3,000 milligrams was the max dose. You're not to go over that because
Right,
it's one of those medications where it's like, hey, you know, if you feel like you're gonna kill somebody or you feel like you're gonna kill yourself, you know, give us a call.
right.
So, but then they were like, hey, nah, you could take 5,000 milligrams. And that was the max I ever was put on. But it is something that like, you know, you gotta, while you take it, you gotta stay conscious. Cause like, and I don't know, I've always been a real like peaks and valley kind of quiet guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I never really been one to like verbalize all that type of shit. So, but you do have to be conscious, self-conscious or self-aware, you know, however you want to word it, when you take it, because you could be, yeah, there are times where you know, even to this day, I have to catch myself because I wake up, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, get ready for work, feeling great. And, you know, drive 30 minutes to get to work. And it's like, then all of a sudden mad as a motherfucker, and I don't know why. Like nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's just all of a sudden I'm angry, and I got to kind of like reel myself back in. You got to remind yourself, like you got to think back to where you've been, and I don't know. I draw inspiration from all types of things. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people that were here that are not here anymore. And, we were in the same places, same, situations and
Same struggles.
yeah, same struggles, whatever. And they're not here and I am. And for me, it's like you got to recognize that that's for a reason. That's for a reason. So, I look at it as not only do I owe it to myself to live my best life, but I owe it to them. I owe it to you,
Your
me,
mother.
my mother. You know what I'm saying? You owe it to everybody. You know what I mean? You owe it to yourself most
Yes.
of all, but you got to draw inspiration, you got to draw motivation from something. And Stefan, Trebo, shit, you can add Martinez to the list now. Um, you know, you
But
owe
but
it to them.
but the reason I mentioned journaling and medication is because you have found that it's a certain brand that you prefer and it's time released.
Yeah,
And
they
why
never
is
told
it,
me
why does that make a difference?
because I only have to take it once a day, whereas before I would have to take 6 pills in the morning and make sure that I had 6 pills at night. And I'm not a planner. I'm not a planner. I'm not a carry a pill organizer around with me. Plus, it's got to be in like a temperature control. It's got to be in a room stored between 62 and 72 degrees. So you can't keep it in your car in the winter or during the summer. And you know what I'm
So
saying?
why do you
I
feel like
finally
brand matters?
I don't know, just they were the one brand that they gave me. They're like, oh, it's the exact same thing, but it just looks different. It just tastes different. It's like, well, then it's not the exact same fucking thing.
Right.
And I just felt a little bit different on that brand.
So when I say journal, I mean, I think through journaling and if it's young children, of course, as a parent, you have to help them with that, but it allows them to recognize the triggers because for me, I have always said that Tyler's triggers were stress.
Well, that's what they said. Stress, sleep
Look, at Johns
deprivation.
Hopkins, they said there was one lady that came in that was epileptic. It was a song. If a song would come on, she would immediately start seizing. And don't ask me why it's like that, but I strongly believe in triggers.
Well, I think that's a fact. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a like a proven fact. The stats back it, the science backs it. And I want to throw this out there too. Like I know it might have sounded like I was bashing those guys at certain points, and that's not the case at all. That they changed my life for the better. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a difficult motherfucker. That's all.
He is.
I really am. I felt bad that they
Always has
had to
been.
deal with me at times, but what I mean, doctor, all my doctors up there, my neurologist, the neurosurgeon,
Very supportive.
the surgical staff. Like I'm telling you, that first surgery, that first one, I ain't gonna hold you. I was never really scared throughout the process until we had to be there at like 5 o'clock that morning and they take you into an all white room. You know what I mean? You're naked with your little blousey blouse
You look
on.
down on.
And they all came back and introduced themselves one by one. Hi, my name is, Jonathan. I'm gonna be the anesthesiologist. This is what I'm gonna do. Hi, my name is so and so. I'm gonna be responsible for keeping everything sterile, so on and so forth. I
And
mean, it's
see,
like
for
a
you, the
12-man
first
team, and
one,
they all came back and introduced themselves. And it really did help. It really did help because like the night before,
see, for me, it was the second one, and maybe the first one I was in a fog, but the second one they allowed the family to come back. They cut up with us. They carried on. I even requested they take out the catheter before you woke up, and they did. It's amazing what they do. There's a screen up, and they'll show you Tyler's name and the surgeon, and when surgery starts, how many hours are left, when he's done, when he's in recovery.
because the first one was
Johns Hopkins is amazing.
the first one was 6 and some change. The second one was 5 and some change.
But I felt like the second one was, and maybe it's because we knew that it was a lot. There was a lot more going
The
into
second one
that.
sounded so much worse than
Right.
the first
Well,
one.
the risks were so much greater.
I feel like the risks were worse.
That's what I mean. They were greater with the second. There were so many more risks with the second than with the first.
Yeah, I mean,
They were talking about eyesight loss, memory loss. I mean, the list goes on.
Well, the memory loss was the first one too.
Yeah.
Because that's why I was.
I'm just glad that you opted for the second. I think if he had not had those 3 accidents in that one night, he probably would have
What accidents?
the 3 car accidents in one night. Wasn't it
Oh,
3?
no, it was
Was it 2?
my car. I hit the kid at the light, and I hit the second lady.
I
So
thought you
3
hit a
cars.
parking lot at the mall.
Mm-mm,
A parked
no.
car? No? Okay. So anyway, 2. But my point is, I think that had those accidents not happened, you would have never considered the second.
Well, the final straw too was leaving Treybo's funeral, that one on the highway, where I woke up and I was getting loaded into the back of an ambulance. And I remember asking them, like, hey, can I have my car towed?
Was this the one in Northern Virginia?
Yeah. And I'm
Okay.
like, man, can I get my car towed? And they're like, dude, that's not your car. Your car is on the other side of the highway.
And so what, give us some,
Just like, I can't remember if she's his cousin or whatever, but we were leaving the funeral. And that one was crazy because he had just come home. He'd been gone for years. And he had just came home or just come home. He had just come down to Ocean City. We spent a couple of days down together. I mean, we cut up, oh, man, we cut up bad. We had some fun. It was good to see him. We had written letters, but we hadn't seen
but
each
I
other.
remember you calling me or texting me, one of the 2. I don't, yeah.
Yeah. And it was just good to see him. And then, like the next week, his sister called me like, yo, Treybo, he died, man. They found him in DC. I'm like, oh shit. And so we left the funeral. Emotions were high. It's like one of his family members, their car wouldn't start. I was working for AAA. So I called them, come out, tow the vehicle. And I was following the tow truck. We're on the highway. They turned off on a different road. You know what I mean? We were headed to different spots. And I'm following the tow truck. And I remember like looking at the speedometer, we're at like 70, 75. And I'm like, damn, this motherfucker's hauling ass. And I'm like, I'm not even following him to the house. Like he's got the address. I remember thinking like, okay, I'm gonna just fall back. And that's the last thing I remember. I woke up in the ambulance and apparently I had, something had happened. I veered off the highway, went through a bank parking lot, down into a ditch, up out of a ditch, through those old wooden Civil War fences that are like this. And that shit ripped my whole back axle off the car. And this is at night, this is that funeral was
I'm shocked you survived it.
all day. And that was the final straw. I mean, there were a bunch of building blocks before, but that was like the last piece of the Jenga that, before the tower fell. And it's like, okay, let's do this because I can't. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing. You know what I mean? It's a blessing I'm still here. That's why I say I'm still here for a reason. It's up to me to recognize that reason. It's up to me to, honor the ones that aren't here. And it's beautiful, man. Like I said, I'm 4 years. Like I feel great. I feel great. You know what I mean? I'm doing
So do you feel like
I'll be able to do.
Do you feel like it's a combination of what the doctors recommended and what you feel was right for you? Because I know that there were a lot of recommendations that you didn't. I'm just trying to figure
I'm
out.
not a medicine man. I don't want to have to take. Well, also we had that during the one little like meeting with that one woman at Hopkins at like a satellite office.
Mm-hmm.
I remember she was talking and she was like, and I was voicing how I don't really care for medicine.
Yes.
And she was like, listen, dude. She was like, I was diagnosed depressed like 20 years ago. This, that, and the third. She was like, and I didn't really want to take medicine. She was like, but I went into it. I'm in the medical field. Science, blah blah blah. She was like, so I trusted the science. She said, and it changed my fucking life. She said it made me who I thought I was versus who I had been. Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
Such a nice woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, even to this day, if I don't take it, I turn into.
I think that's what got you consistent with Keppra. But what I'm talking about is a lot of those doctors were trying to freaking give you anxiety medicine and this and that.
Oh, but they were more so these doctors down here. That was more so these doctors down here. And it's like, I don't want to take, I don't want to just have those doctors. One of those doctors isn't even allowed to practice down here anymore because he was handing out pills like Skittles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I didn't like that. She was like, man, he asked me, he put out this old ass book. And because I asked him about interactions with Keppra, and he pulled out an old book, opened it like halfway through.
Oh my gosh, I remember him.
Yeah, it went through like 3 pages, and he was like, nah, you're good. He's like, so I got some stuff that you can function on, and I got some stuff that you ain't gonna be able to function on. Which one you want? And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I remember him.
So I tried the stuff I could function on, and shit, I couldn't function on it. So I didn't even want to take the
So
step
pay
up.
attention to your kids, especially if they're younger, because they're not going to understand mentally how they're feeling so much. Just listen, pay mind to their mood swings and if something's working or if it's not working. And that's why I say journal, write it down.
Write a book.
Okay.
Hey.
So Tyler, I appreciate you coming on. I know this has been a lot to share.
Like I said, it was hard
It's a
on
lot for me
y'all.
to share. I can tell you.
Yes, I never watched it.
Look for the book
April
coming in April
2024. We got the release
2024.
date. Published author to be
Yes.
Rhonda right here.
It's going to be a lot more. We're going to go. I go into a lot more detail because you're looking at it from my perspective. So all this crying I was doing here, I'm sort of doing in the book as well.
And we really
But
just scratching the surface on all the things that happen. Like we touched on some highlights, but this shit is so much deeper.
The book will hold a lot more. So check it out.
Epilepsy as seen by a parent.
Yes. Anyway, Tyler, thank you.
For sure.
Thanks for listening.